a press conference at 3:10 and we have the feedback session at 4 p.m. So we need to cater that in when making any.
Okay, then your time freezes at 3:10. By 3:10, you have to send it in. I will not accept resolution even if it comes at 3:11. So by 3:10, you send the resolution to all three of us in the WhatsApp group. We'll have a look. Then we'll break for press conference. No, we'll break for what? Yeah, press conference, right? Of the feedback.
3:10 is the press conference, 4 is the feedback.
Okay, then we go for the press conference. And what time do we get back? I think press conference will take about 15-20 minutes. So we have just half an hour of committee session left now. Is that correct? Correct.
Right.
Yes.
I don't think after 4, once we have the feedback session, we'll be having any more time left with us.
Right, sir.
Okay, then I don't think we can have any other discussion or now. We'll straight away proceed to voting if the member will press for it. Okay.
Sir?
Yes, Mr. Khadge.
So I was actually wondering, since we have a little bit of time left, can we actually have a discussion on the resolutions that will be presented?
We don't have that much time. No, in half an hour, how will you discuss 3 different resolutions?
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll just straight away move to voting.
Okay.
So
Yes.
I had a question. If a resolution the voting doesn't take place and it fails in the voting, so will it be taken into account or not, like in Rajya Sabha?
See, that will be your particular resolution. That is KC Venugopal. Who is speaking, by the way?
Me.
Me
I'm
as in
speaking.
KC Venugopal, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that will be factored in by the chairman's office as KC Venugopal's resolution. That's all.
But as a leader, I represent the whole opposition, right? So
see, but again, if there are other members in the opposition who are having a different resolution altogether, then it automatically gets in conflict with your resolution. Okay. As the leader of the opposition, it should have been your responsibility to come up with just one resolution. But how come do we have different resolutions from the opposition if you have been proclaimed as a leader of the opposition? So it contradicts your entire proclamation, right?
I see.
Yeah.
One more doubt I had is regarding that when you said you will be taking 3 resolutions from the ruling party, so that is
not the ruling party. The first 3 resolutions that I received. That's all.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
What if some of them do not get voted upon? What if they don't pass? Will you be looking forward for the next resolution?
Even if I get one resolution, even if I get a favorable majority in one of the resolutions out of the 3 resolutions that are going to come up, we'll end the committee because we don't have any substantial thing to do. Even if we do, we do not have the time to cater to it. All right. And if all the 3 fail, then we'll look for other 3 resolutions or other 2 resolutions, whatever remaining.
I understand, but just a humble urge to, incorporate 5 of them.
See, in a strength of 30 members or 29 members, how can you expect me to have a 5 resolution thing?
I understand that, but I'm just asking because we have worked hard on it. So maybe
no, the entire point of working hard is very futile in this committee. No. See, when you are sitting in a committee, you need to understand that in a strength of 29 people, you are coming with 5 different paperworks.
I see.
The uttermost failure of diplomacy in the committee of the past 2 days. What have you guys done? What have you guys deliberated upon?
Correct.
5 different resolutions. You do not have 5 different blocks in the committee. Same political party, same alliance coming up with 2 to 3 different resolutions. That is just ridiculous. That just goes on to prove that you have not discussed things with other members of the committee. You are just furthering your own self-agenda in the committee, and that is not going to help. And this is not exclusively to you, Mr. Narayan Rane, but to every other member in the committee. Making a demand of having 5 resolutions in a strength of 28 people is just ridiculous. I don't know how can you even think about it.
I understand. See, we did have a prior discussion, but what we decided is key. what I think we decided is that it shouldn't club in different topics. Like all the different aspects should be presented differently. So as a finance ministry,
No,
the
when I
ministerial
said
one
that
will be
there
issued.
should be one definite issue, I meant public-private partnership. All right. Public-private partnership, underneath it, you can obviously have different topics associated with it.
Okay. Yeah, see, we've
Yeah,
already
it's
aware
not
of
like for
that.
transportation sector, you need one resolution. For healthcare sector, you need another resolution.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't aware of that. I'm sorry. That's
Yeah,
that
obviously,
moment.
that's not how it works. Yes, Mr. Venugopal.
Sorry, I forgot to lower my hand.
Mr. Khadge.
So I'm sorry I missed the part where you were telling about the. I don't know if you told because I was not here due to some network issues.
No, don't worry, tell me.
Marking scheme in the resolutions. Like, are they going to be marked or
See, everything that you do in this committee has bearing on your marking.
because the resolution will have only one person's name on it? So will the specific person get all the share of marks?
See, that is the entire point. No, in terms of, let's say if there is a resolution that is being put across by Hardeep Singh Puri, all right, he will be the one who is going to move it. But just in case if he tells me that, look, boss, there are two people who have worked on this, as a mover of this resolution, I'm presenting my name, or my ministry is taking this forward. Okay, then okay, I factor that into your marking also. But just
Okay,
in case if he is the sole mover of it, even behind the scene, then automatically you will not get anything out of it. But see, that is the entire point. No, that is why I thought that if we are having a resolution, that would be better. It would be better to have discussion around it, so that even if your name is not on it, but just because you have put across your ideas or opinion or observation on the resolution, you get an equitable standing in the committee.
Okay, sir.
But now it's already 3-6, so we can't do that. Time bird.
Okay.
Mr. Narayan.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
All right. Karan, please meet me in a different room, please.
Yes.
You have time, 3 more minutes, guys. And then the press will join you. We will be meeting with you at about what? Once the press conference is done.
So till then, can we decide on the motion? Can we pass a motion or propose one
For
of to discuss, or do we just do the resolution after this?
yeah, we just get to do the resolution after this. We don't have time left because 15-20 minutes will be taken up by the press. We resume at 3:30. Half an hour we have. In half an hour, what will we do?
Okay, so thank you.
Mr. Venugopal, what are you saying?
Sir, can we have a picture? Like,
Picture?
can we make everybody turn on their camera and have a picture of the committee?
Can you please do that after 3:30?
Sure, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. Karan, please meet me in a different room.
Yes, sir. Tanaya, can you coordinate with Bianca and ask her to have the press conference quickly?
Yeah.
Sure, Karan. Yeah.
Tanya, you can also come. Tanya and Adila. Tanya and Adila, you also join me and Karan in a different room altogether. Okay, I'm leaving for the meeting.
Deputy Chairman, I had a. Hello.
Yes, Mr.
Yes.
Third.
Yeah, sir, Madam, I'll be sending you the data of the previous point of order that I raised yesterday because Karan sir asked me for the data. So,
All right. Please do send us the data. We'll go through it.
okay, thank you, Madam.
Sir, there is an inquiry that I had. Hello.
Yes, Nirmala Sitaram.
Ma'am, I've sent a breach of privilege in the WhatsApp group, I think by 12:20, which there had to be a ruling given on it. So
Mihir sir would be giving the ruling.
Okay.
I'll just remind him.
yeah.
Also, Madam, regarding my breach of privilege as well, I raised it, and I guess you or the scribe madam said that it would be checked into it because the verbatim has to be checked.
Yes, exactly. So the scribe is looking for the verbatim. And we'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am.
Sir, I have sent it sent it to you personally. You can just refer to the all the clauses regarding the infrastructure there.
Just a second. Right, fair. I had accessed this one only. I just wanted to know if you were mentioning a particular subclause or the entire article itself. Right, this is an order.
Thank you, sir.
Also, Tanaya and Adila, can you just handle the other breach of privilege contentions? I'll move on to the resolutions. Now, members,
Yes.
regarding the resolutions, as Mihir sir had made it very clear, we'll be having just 3 resolutions, the first 3 that come in, right? I hope the committee knows that. Yes, Mallikarjun Kharge.
Sir, I was asking about my point of order. Did you receive the information?
She hasn't sent me the information. Just forward it
Okay.
to me as well.
Okay, sir, I will.
Yeah, or send it to me on the Zoom chat if you can.
So that would be a bit hectic for me if I can.
Yeah.
Or
Karan, I'll send you.
Okay, cool.
okay, thank you very much.
Right. So regarding the resolutions, the first 3. Now let's check the WhatsApp group. The first resolution that we got was resolution Nagar Lakshmi by Hardeep Singh Puri. The second that we have is the resolution plan by Kapil Sibal. And the third is by KC Venugopal, leader of opposition. Now, KC Venugopal, when you say leader of opposition, do you mean that this resolution is on behalf of the entire opposition, or is it an individual resolution by you independently? Hello, am I audible?
Hello. Hello.
Yes, yes, go on.
Yeah, I'm speaking about entire opposition, but we are yet to reach a consensus. Just give me a moment.
Right, so the resolution by Narayan Rane won't be considered. Resolution by Nirmala Sitharaman won't be considered. Nirmala Sitharaman and Seema Dwivedi won't be considered. Yeah, that's it.
But point of parliamentary inquiry.
Yeah, go on.
Sir, I think while the queries for the resolutions were specifically sent, there was an information put to us to we were informed that in case if the resolutions that are being posed are not passing, then the rest of the resolutions that have come can be taken up for discussion.
No. Mihir sir clarified this. I think this question was brought up by Narayan Rane himself, right? So Mihir sir mentioned that if, for example, we vote on Hardeep Singh Puri's motion, resolution, and it gets failed, and the same happens for the subsequent 2 other resolutions as well, it won't hamper anything. 3 resolutions have been brought on the table of the House. Those are the only ones that we'll vote on.
Yeah, in case, I additionally went on to say when they fail, we can take the other.
If they fail, it's irrelevant. We just have 3. That's what.
Karan,
he said.
Karan, they,
Did he say
Mihir did
that?
mention that.
Okay, then I'm very sorry.
Here, sir,
Extreme
let's say that
apologies.
if they fail, like if it fails, then the others in line will be considered.
Okay,
Yes, so we would be
apologies, huh?
following the preceding order.
Yeah,
If
and
we
also
do.
like we were giving a time limit key before 3:10 we are supposed to put in, so that should be
Okay.
considered.
Okay, then I'll
Yes,
check that.
well
as well.
considered.
Thank you.
So
So,
the resolution proposed by
one second.
me.
So Nirmala Sitharaman, Narayan Rane, the second resolution that you have sent is the one that we have to consider, right?
Yes, because the first one was the wrong document that I attached. The second one
Okay.
is the final document.
Okay.
Thank
Fair.
you.
Okay. Extremely sorry. I did not know that sir had made that change. So we will abide by that. We have 5 resolutions on the table. Yes, K.C. Venugopal.
Yeah, the resolution proposed by me is speaking for the entire opposition.
Okay. And what about Kapil Sibal?
Yes, that too is represent like I'm representing the I'm not representing, actually it is on behalf of the entire opposition.
One second. Your resolution is on behalf of the entire opposition.
Yes, both of our resolutions are on behalf of the entire opposition. It's just that we didn't know that we have to just submit one resolution, so we would have clubbed into one resolution. But we've actually sent it out before the time limit got lapsed.
Okay, then I don't see a point in voting on both of them then, right? That's my question. So if it's on behalf of the entire opposition and we know that Kapil Sibal has played a role, either one of you can take it off the table. You can withdraw it. That's up to you. Otherwise, we can vote on it. I don't have an issue with that. Your call.
So we won't be voting on it. Like,
We'll just take 2 minutes to discuss. Like
Yeah, take your time.
Get back to you.
Take your time. Yeah. Now, Hardeep Singh Puri, are you pushing forward for voting for your resolution?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The resolution was drafted by me, but I have received suggestions and changes from both the ruling party and the opposition. I had shared the draft with both the parties last night.
Okay, understood. Narayan Rane,
Yes, sir.
are you pushing forward for voting?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. And Nirmala Sitharaman?
Yes, sir.
Sure. So we'll go in this order. We'll go with resolution Nagar Lakshmi, then contingent on what the opposition decides, we'll vote on that, and then we'll follow that up with Narayan Rane followed by Ravi. Nirmala Sitharaman. Yeah.
So, point of parliamentary inquiry.
Yes.
How does this go about? Do I read the resolution and then ask for any changes or suggestions? Like, how does it go?
So basically what we can do is that as we are short on time, we'll give the committee 2 minutes, go through and peruse through the entire resolution, and then we vote upon it. Because you reading it,
You can ask questions to me, right?
yeah, we can have that, but you will be the sole speaker and we
Yeah.
can have it through a basic, if you want, we can do this as well. We can have you give a statement of about 1 minute 30 seconds. And
So
then
it would be preferable, I guess, that we let the parliamentarians read it in 2 to 3 minutes and then ask questions, because it wouldn't make sense to summarize an already summarized document again verbally.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So what we can, okay. So let's give them time to read it. They'll get their questions ready and you can just answer it. Perfect.
Yeah.
we aren't having any cap on the questions, right? So like,
No, I don't think questions will be an issue right now. We'll have as many questions as the parliamentarians want. Unless it goes above and beyond, but let's have it at a decent number.
okay.
Right. So at 4 p.m. we'll be starting with the resolutions. At 4 p.m. first we'll start with Hardeep Singh Puri's resolution.
Sir, we've actually decided we will put the motion, resolution sent by me for voting, and resolution sent by me for voting, and the resolution sent by Mr. K.C. Venugopal is to be recorded.
Is to be recorded.
Just for a record, what Mahisa said
Okay.
yesterday.
Okay. Got it. Okay, so at 4 p.m. we're voting on Hardeep Singh Puri's motion. Members just peruse through that.
Kapil Singh,
Yes.
could you please provide me with the proof when you made the statement that hospitals are making quoted statements and
I have got the bridge of privilege for that. So basically, I was just typing it out in the chat. So Kapil Sibal, you have told that the compensations are not given, but actually the compensations are given. Pre and
Alright.
post. Yeah.
all right. Adela, could you please send me on this?
I just sent out a report, actually an article which states that I was not saying it is completely not given. It was for some part, and a
Sure, you
statement
can
by-
share it with us, either with me or with Anaya. Again,
yeah.
cross check it.
I'll send it. Cool, no problem. Thank
Yes.
you.
You're welcome.
Hardeep Singh Puri,
Yes, sir.
did you have a talk or did you consult Mihir sir before like drafting this resolution?
I had asked a question that can we propose solutions, and he said yes, you can propose solutions.
No, but these solutions aren't too relevant to the current agenda, right?
No, they are relevant to the PPP model concerned to my ministry. That is housing and urban development. Urban affairs, sorry.
Okay.
It's a ministerial thing. So it needs to be specific to one particular topic, and so it's just one ministry.
Okay. Right. Parliamentarians, are you ready? We'll come back into formal session now. Tanaya, Adila, are you here?
Oh, Karan, just 1 second. I need a clearance with one of the breach of privilege.
Okay, go ahead.
The breach of privilege from Narasimha Rao to Kapil Sibal. So could you just let me know what exactly do you want? It's just a very huge thing that I've asked. It's very difficult to understand. Can you just brief me up?
So you're asking me.
Yes.
Okay.
Basically, they said, Kapil Sibal said, center didn't compensate the diseased COVID patient. Now, I simply talked about when they talked about deceased COVID patients, the civilians, the diseased COVID civilians are to be compensated by the state government and not the center government. The center government will compensate the healthcare workers that were, like deceased due to COVID. So the center did that. The state, in fact, simply asked the center to come in between and take their state's share of work too. That is what happened. So it was so I can provide source. And there is also a Supreme Court verdict where they told Maharashtra government to pay for these debts. So it's basically to be paid by state, by legislation.
Okay, I'll get back to that soon.
So, point of parliamentary inquiry.
Go ahead.
Sir, are we beginning with the questions? Like we have very not much of time left. So,
Yeah, just give me 2 minutes. I'm just looking at the point of order that someone had brought up. Just 2 minutes. Mallikarjun Kharge,
Yes, sir.
you had brought up the point of order, right?
Yes, sir.
Right, sir. The point of order is not in order, and I'll tell you why. I understand that the data that you have given is completely factual and true. Okay.
Yes,
However,
sir.
the PDF document that you've shared with me, that shows the PPP projects in a completely different scenario. These are the PP projects under which financial support has been approved. This
Okay,
does
sir.
not show the actual amount of projects prevailing in the country as of now. Now, when I did I did a little bit of digging, the website for public-private partnerships itself gives a little bit of a gray area where it mentions that about 2000 projects are in the works right now.
Okay, sir.
And the website itself mentions that this data is from World Bank. So there is a
Okay, sir.
gray area in the government website only. So we can't really work on this point of order. I really appreciate the spirit, but I can't take this into order.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, parliamentarians will be moving into formal session now, and we'll be looking forward for questions on Hardeep Singh Puri's resolution, and then we'll move forward to voting. Tanaya Adila, are you ready?
Yes,
Yes,
Karan.
Karan.
Okay, lovely. Hardeep Singh Puri, are you ready to take questions?
Yes, sir.
Yes, members wishing to ask questions to Hardeep Singh Puri on the resolution proposed by him, please raise your hands. Right, go ahead, K.C. Venugopal.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so my question is on the second point, under the second point, bullet point 4, you said the corporate and government should collaborate to build basic infrastructure and local transport facility and hand over the project to newly formed local bodies. So my question is, firstly, will basic infrastructure is basic infrastructure enough to bring in the people, to make people migrate? Because I think it is a setting up of corporates which like creation of jobs which allow people to enter. And secondly, why would the corporate work towards it if at the end you are going to just hand over the project to local bodies?
To this, I would like to answer with an example, that is Gurgaon. Gurgaon was a city or Gurugram, sorry. Gurugram was a city which was not made by the government. It was made by the private players. They just made whatever they needed. The basic infrastructure was built through private-public partnership. It was still not incorporated as a city. It was still a gram panchayat. As far as you said, why would the private players invest if finally it was going to be handed over to the local body? Because even when it has been handed over to the local body, the private players will have some share. So they will get a percentage of the profit, which would have been agreed upon during the finalization of the deal.
Fair. Mallikarjun Kharge.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Puri, in bullet point 2, no, so I'm sorry. Yeah, in this point, you talk about the residential proof like Aadhaar card, voter ID, passport, utility bill, bank passport. But what about the areas that are somewhat surrounded by slums or have slums in it? Those houses are not mostly registered and often encroached onto the government land. Secondly, what about the people who don't have their own house? They live on rent, the students that live in the PGs or something, and they continuously shift from place to place.
For this, I would like to answer in 3 points. Number one, first, you said that if there are people who are living on encroached land, so our government's policy has been very clear. For people living on encroached lands, those lands will be recovered and put to public use. So there is no leniency going on there. Second, you said what happens to people living in slums and temporary houses. As you know, every citizen of India, irrespective of whether he or she owns a property or not, if he or she is above 18 years of age, has a voter ID card. Okay, that's how the voter list is made. So if they have a voter ID card, and now you don't need even 1 rupee to open a Jan Dhan account. So if you have a bank account and you have a voter ID card, you are eligible for it. So as to when it comes to the students can also get their Aadhaar card updated by on the Aadhaar portal by showing the rent agreement of the property they are staying at. So that isn't an issue.
Thank you, sir.
They can also, excuse me, I would like to just add one more point. They can also show their institutional ID cards and change their Aadhaar card address, after which everything becomes very easy. Aadhaar is a one-stop solution.
Understood. Any more questions? Go ahead, K.C. Venugopal.
So, in the point 3, bullet point 2, you said sewage treatment should be outsourced to private agencies with regular and surprise audits and inspection by government officials. So,
Yes.
sir, how do you think a private player would enter into sewage treatment? Like, they obviously hold a motive of profit. And
Yes.
secondly, if we are gonna just raid them whenever we want and ask them for audits and inspections, isn't it pushing it too far?
No, it's not raiding, it's inspection. It's a regular practice when it comes to industry. There is something called sampling for anything. Like if you want to test the entire batch of milk, you just randomly take 10 ml or 20 ml of milk and check it. If the sample is all right, the bulk is expected to be all right. That is a risk that is commonly taken in the industry. Also, it is not just with these sewage treatment plants. Every factory, irrespective of whatever it is producing, is regularly audited and checked. This can be from manufacturing airplanes to manufacturing noodles. Everything is being inspected in the food thing by FSSAI, and there are respective auditing and inspecting agencies for every sector. So it's a regular practice we have in the government sphere.
Fair. Any more questions?
So I have.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Puri, in sewage treatment and disposal, you've written manual scavengers should be readily replaced by new products recently introduced in the market by placing bulk orders. Now, so the thing is, as we all know, that they come from a most of them come from a very vulnerable section of the society. They're not really that educated, that skilled. So how does the government plan to compensate and rehabilitate them once they lose their jobs?
Number one, first thing I would like to state that the act which banned manual scavenging was passed in 2013. I guess if I remember the name correctly, it is called Prohibition of Manual Scavenging Act 2013, and it was passed by the UPA government in which you were a minister. But we appreciated that that act was passed unanimously in both the houses. Secondly, it is not a matter of economics, Mr. Khargeji. It is a matter of life and death. The sewage has many toxic gases, which puts the lives of the workers at stake. And I am sure they would be able to find a better profession than manual scavenging. Anyway, most of them are there because they were either forced into it or something like that. So we cannot risk the lives of citizens because by that way we wouldn't have ever industrialized. That was the argument made during industrialization. What happens to the workers after you industrialize? It is the cost of life that matters. So when it comes to manual scavenging, our government is very strict. We are going to eliminate it by 2024 completely from all parts of India.
So plea to follow up.
Plea to follow up is not granted. If you have another question, you can go ahead.
It is related to this question. So
okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, I totally remember the act that we passed, but even you agree that there are certain parts of the country that still practice manual scavenging. It is condemnable, and of course, it is condemnable. But what I'm trying to say here is that for them, that is somewhat their livelihood. I totally agree with your point that life and death is much more important than the money. But certainly we need to understand that they have to be compensated in some or the other way, because it is ultimately their livelihood. So how is the government planning on to do that?
Mallika Arjun Khadgeji, have you seen the machines? These machines are not automated AI robots. These machines are to be used by humans themselves. It is just that rather than taking that dip into that poisonous slurry, they will just stand outside and use the machine. So it's not that they are being unemployed. Maybe their numbers would reduce, but we are expecting that we'll gradually phase them out rather than retrenchment as usual. So the people will be required, but they will be saved from taking dips into that poisonous slurry. If that.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Right. I think at this point, all the concerns of the parliamentarians are addressed. We'll move on to voting. Members, the voting is going to be very simple. We have 32 participants in the meeting right now. I assume as 4 members are from the panel, we have 28 participants as of now. All 28 have to vote. There's no provision of abstaining or not voting. This is not an MUN. This is not a UN committee. All members in favor of the resolution proposed by Hardeep Singh Puri, kindly raise your hands. Okay, I see 14. Everybody lower your hands. All members against? Four haven't voted. Tanaya, Adil, are you here? Can you just find out who isn't voting, because this is going to cause a problem for all other resolutions as well.
Yes, Karan, just.
Sir,
All right,
my
all-
hand visible.
No, it's not.
So consider my voting for the bill, not against.
Okay.
Because
that
I was
case-
trying to raise it and it was not visible, and I was informed it was not visible. So I have to.
Okay.
I am voting in favor of the resolution to be passed by Mr. Hardeep Singh Puri.
Noted. Tanaya, please still work on that. But taking
Yes,
that into consideration, we have 10 votes against, and we had 14 votes earlier. Adding on to that, we have one vote of Nirmala Sitharaman. That makes it 15. We had a committee strength of 28. Simple majority would have been placed at 15, and in that case, this resolution passes by Hardeep Singh Puri. Right. On an informal note, can you remind me of what Mihir sir had mentioned regarding if one resolution is voted upon and it has passed? Do we move on to the others?
I guess he said then that is adopted as the resolution of the committee.
Okay.
He said only 3 resolutions would be considered that way, but if one or two of the resolution fails, then the other resolutions can be considered.
Karan, am I audible?
Yeah, you are. Tell me.
Yeah, so Mihir just said that if the first resolution passed, then we have to accept it by the order of precedence.
Right. But the question that I have is that, which I'll address, is that Hardeep Singh Puri's resolution was one on behalf of his ministry, and it wasn't relating to the agenda as a whole. So I'll just get that clarification and get back to the committee in a second.
Sure. Which is the next resolution? It is from Kapil Sibal, right?
Right. So members, in that case, just peruse through Kapil Sibal's resolution, and then I'll just give you a confirmation in a second. Right. So now in this case, as Hardeep Singh Puri's resolution is not merely on the agenda, it's his ministry's stance on the agenda and what they are looking forward to do in the committee and what they have achieved from this committee. We are moving on to the other resolutions because they do not represent the ministry stance, but the entire committee stance. Right? Hardeep Singh Puri, is that fine? Your
Yes.
resolution has been adopted by your ministry and that has the support of the House.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Moving on, we have Kapil Sibal's resolution, right?
Yes, correct.
Right. Have the members perused through it? Members' confirmation.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just a second. Right. So we'll be voting on Kapil Sibal's. Sorry, we'll be entertaining questions on Kapil Sibal's resolution. Members wishing to ask Kapil Sibal questions, please raise your hands. Right, Hardeep Singh Puri.
So in the act point number 3, bullet point number 3, it reads to provide for establishment of an infrastructure regulatory authority for the purpose of the act. Why does the member of parliament feel that there needs to be an ad hoc regulatory board, whereas there are already existing boards for every type of infrastructure? There is NHAI for roadways, for highways. Then there is the port. For ports, there are different. For airport regulatory authority is there. Why is there a need for an ad hoc authority? If the member of parliament may clarify.
Sure. May I have the permission to answer the question?
Yes, you do, sir.
Yes. So it provides for an establishment of an infrastructure regulatory authority. So you are correctly right in stating that we have NHAI for the national highways, but this regulatory body will not only look up into infrastructural sector. It will overall look into the purpose of the act. Like I would like to give you example of the RERA and the RERA Act and the RERA itself. They both are in consonance with each other because the RERA is an authority. They have an act as well. So it is for the smooth function of the real estate all over India. So that is why we have we have proposed to have an act which is in general and on the central list, and which can deal with all the sectors of the PPP, not only relating to the infrastructure or any other sectors.
So please to follow up.
Go ahead.
So you said that like the RERA agreement, you want to basically have multiple checks and balances, if I got you correct.
See, now what PPPs are mostly contracts. Okay. So
I guess no, PPPs are not contracts. Contracts are contracts. PPPs are PPPs. There's a difference.
PPPs are contractual obligations is what I'm trying to say. If you get my point.
Yes, okay.
So for that purpose, to enforce those contractual obligations, if any of the party in the subject matter, if the subject matter is a dispute and the parties are having a problem with the contractual obligations, they need not go to the high courts or the Supreme Court via writs. If we have a quasi judicial body for it, they can go and approach, and it can be done expeditiously. There's no need to approach the honorable high courts and the Supreme Court for the reasons which can be tackled by the quasi judicial bodies, which will be established under the act and the infrastructure regulatory authority.
So last plea to follow up just one point.
Wait, I have a question on this. So the infrastructure regulatory authority that you're proposing here is a quasi judicial authority in the form of a tribunal, and not the authority overseeing the operations.
No, there's a board which will be overseeing the operations of the infrastructure, the PPPs. Okay, so that is what I'm saying. Like how we have a tribunal, like the RERA, it is authority and a tribunal. You can't say that there's a difference between the two. Although there is a difference between the administration, but we have the board to look after the operations of the PPP. And for the dispute resolution, we have this quasi judicial body, which is a regulatory authority called the infrastructure regulatory authority.
So one
Go
little.
ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, basically a few weeks back, our Chief Justice of India just stated that we have so many cases piled up and that we lack n number of judges. We are short on judges. How do you think we are going to be able to allocate judges from the main judiciary for a quasi-judicial body? And if we want that we appoint IAS officers, we are also falling short of IAS officers. And at this stage, when we are trying to cut down on bureaucracy, I don't see this aligning with the vision of the government.
This is exactly the point. You said that we are short of judges. No, we are actually not short of judges. It's just that we have a lot of applications, pool of applications which are pending before the government for approvals. We have a lot of competent people in the judiciary fraternity. So we have a lot of people. We have eminent jurists who are ready to be the part, and we can have retired judges to be the chairperson of such regulatory authorities. It is not that we don't have anything. It is just that the process is not expedite, and that is why a lot of appointments are also being are on standstill since a lot of years, which we correctly discussed yesterday in yesterday's legislative business.
I hope you're a lawyer, Mr. Sibal. I hope you can talk to the Chief Justice. He's your good friend and he will tell you the problems.
Fair enough. Nirmala Sitharaman.
Thank you, sir.
Ma'am, the particular act that you have recommended has nowhere specifically mentioned what is the composition of the quasi-judicial authority, right? Now, when you refer to judicial authority in general, the appointment for quasi-judicial authority, that is specifically for tribunals, is specifically done through the tribunal's rules, right? Now, the act that you are proposed has been in complete contradiction to the tribunal rules that exist today. Please justify.
Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman, I would like you to please rephrase your question. I didn't actually get the context in which you were talking.
Or if I may rephrase, yeah.
Go ahead.
See, the appointments for tribunals is done through the tribunal rules, right? Not under the normal judicial appointment, which is done under the memorandum of procedure that we have under the law ministry. For tribunals, you appoint apparently people who the judges for tribunals through tribunal rules. Your current act specifically is in contradiction to the current existing tribunal rules. Justify.
No, it is neither in contradiction to the tribunal rules. If you go forward in the resolution which I have set out, more particularly, I'll just point out. For that, I have also mentioned a provision which provides for just a minute. I'll just point out where is it. Yes. So there's a bullet point. Seven, to provide for an infrastructure board for the purpose of the act, setting out the composition, powers to make bylaws, duties, functions, and clauses which are incidental thereto. So the board which will be adopted, the board which will be established under the act, obviously a bill will be passed and the board will be established, and the board shall decide the composition of the tribunal which is going to be established under this act. It is not contradiction to any of the laws. It can be in consonance, and I'm sure that a fruitful discussion which will be taken into the legislative business once the bill is put on the table, we can have a proper answer for it and a proper solution to go through it.
Quickly to follow.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Primarily, for any sort of tribunal or any sort of quasi-judicial body, you appoint it under the tribunal rules, right? Now, there are only 14 tribunals for which these judges are being appointed currently in India. And there is a chairperson set for that particular committee. Your act says the judges for the tribunals that you set up will be decided by your own body that you set up. Whereas the statutory provision that exists today says that the tribunal will be, the judges for any sort of tribunal will be set up by the tribunal rules and the chairperson of that committee, which is a clear contradiction.
Just a minute, Ms. Sitharaman, what I said over here is will decide the composition. It doesn't mean they will appoint. Of course, it will be decided under the tribunal's rules. It is just a composition of who will be there in the committee, how many members will be there, not the committee. the tribunal, whether there'll be of course there'll be a chairperson, vice chairperson, and the other composition and the eligibility for the members who will be there on the board and the tribunal. That is what I was speaking about in this. This resolution does not per se set out the whole act. It just set out a plan, a resolution plan, which can be taken into consideration and the bill can be formulated according to it.
Yeah, madam.
I
We'll
hope
move on to Piyush Goyal.
satisfied with that.
We'll move on to Piyush Goyal.
The representative in the point number 6 of the Act has talked about the regulatory authority. So the query which I have is, what does the representative propose to be the nature of that regulatory authority, and how do they decide the composition of it?
Just like I stated before, the composition will be decided by the board, and according to the tribunal rules, it will be allocated. It will be appointed. The members will be appointed. The CP and the vice chairperson will be appointed. Furthermore, the regulatory authority enunciating the authority's power to make regulations and the manner of proceedings and clauses incidental thereto. That is, the regulatory authority will look up into the disputes which will be arising out of the contracts in the PPP. So that is why we have a regulatory authority to look after whatever the disputes arise in relation to the PPP.
Right, Narayan Rane.
Sir, can I?
Yes, sir. Sir, so when you think of implementing what you have proposed, have you taken into consideration that a lot of work is yet to be done in the existing and the new project is being registered? Because status of each project executed in the last 5 years, the promoter details, detailed execution plans, everything needs to be prepared and it is still not worked on. Apart from that, the government agency, usually there is a very long delay in approval, and the clearance may hinder the timely delivery of the results. So what is your take on this?
That is why this resolution plan is actually for, as you correctly said, that there will be statutory requirements which will be coming in between, which will cause a lot of delay in projects to be registered and other stuff as well. So what this resolution is actually, the purpose of this act is actually to eliminate all of the process, eliminate the existing statutory requirements. Of course, the authority will look after everything which is done by the PP, like for the projects under the PPP. So that is why we have an authority to look after it. Also, furthermore, you stated that how do you plan on doing it? See, this is just a seed. Obviously, there will be a lot of discussion upon it. There will be a lot of deliberations upon it. And after that, a bill will be formulated, which will ultimately be passed in the lower and the upper house. So these are just the suggestions which the opposition is putting forward for all the parliamentarians to discuss upon it, to deliberate upon it. I'm pretty sure that after this act is passed, there'll be very less contractual obligations which the private players will have to go through. And even if the main purpose of the act is that there have been lot of disputes which have arisen, and that has caused a lot of projects to be on standstill. The PPP projects have been standstill because of no expedite dispute resolution, and for the purposes thereof we have this authority.
Sir, point of order.
On
point of order to the EB.
Go ahead.
Multiple times Mr. Kapil Sibal ji is mentioning it as an act. The motion is not to discuss an act, it is to discuss a resolution. So if you could please remind
But
him.
how is that a point? The point of order to the EB is not an order.
Okay, but it's a procedural thing, right?
The procedural thing would be when I am committing a procedural error. In this case, the Kapil Sibal is an independent parliamentarian with the liberty to say whatever the respected parliamentarian wants to say. Now it is up to the legal luminary's interpretation of what an act is or a resolution is.
Okay.
Which is in the gray area right now, which shouldn't be. But I understand your point. It's not an order.
Okay, sir.
Right.
So which point should it be if I have to raise it in any future conference?
Ideally, it won't be any point.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's something that is up to the interpretation of the parliamentarian, right?
Yeah, but the act and resolution is clearly defined They are separate things.
I would like to clarify the permission of the chair.
Go ahead. Informally, go ahead.
This is actually not, I mean, this is the resolution to pass an act. Obviously, there will be bills and then the act. I'm just referring to it as an act. The act which will be established for the purposes to regulate the PPP. That is what I'm referring to. I'm not referring to a proper act which you are interpreting as it is. There's obviously a resolution which we are discussing.
It becomes an act when it has been signed.
No.
I know.
Look,
That's what
this is not a bill that she is proposing that will be voted upon to become an act. This is a resolution in which she's proposing an act to be taken up by the government or by the private members.
Yeah.
Right? Now we'll move on to voting. Nirmala Sitharaman.
I just had one quick question, sir.
Regarding the resolution.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll allow it in 1 minute.
Yes. Sir, very specifically, they haven't mentioned which all infrastructure or per se which all operations will be confined under this particular act. Now, when we speak of public-private partnership, that happened at the state level, taking, for example, health PPPs, where the state government is the one which predominantly decides because health is a state subject. Won't this statutory act supersede the federal character of the respective governments?
But it is for the infrastructure which I have stated. There is an infrastructure, the word infrastructure is being used and it is for all the sectors. When a PPP is getting implemented, a PPP is getting started into, it is agreed upon. And for the purpose of the infrastructure, then only the authority will regulate it. That is what
The problem is this will be as per your vision, this will be a bill which will be brought to the parliament and passed by the government. Okay, let us assume it passes. It means that the union government has come out with a legislation. A central legislation cannot make a particular law on a state subject, given the fact that health is a state subject.
Understood. Kapil Sibal, your answer.
Yes, that is what I'm saying. Even we can exclude it. We can exclude it altogether if it is getting into the point, because we can't just for the purpose of the health, we can't, I know it comes under the state list, but it doesn't mean that the central authority shouldn't pass a bill which actually formulates the other part of the PPP, right?
Noted, Kapil Sibal. Thank you. Right now, again, we have 32 members. 4 members are from the panel. We have a committee strength of 28. We'll be looking forward towards voting right now. Members in favor of the resolution proposed by Kapil Sibal, raise your hands. Okay, we have 8 votes. Kindly lower your hands, members. Lower your hands, everybody. Mallikarjun Kharge. Mallikarjun Kharge. Yes. Members against, quickly. Yeah, we have 15 votes. We have a majority against. This resolution does not pass. It's not adopted. We move on to the next resolution. That is by Nirmala Sitharaman.
I am in believance that it was my proposed resolution.
But then you had revised it and sent it again, right?
Okay, if we are looking at it that way.
Yeah, so we'll have Nirmala Sitharaman first, then you.
Okay.
Members, we'll have 3 minutes to discuss this quickly, to peruse through the resolution quickly, and then we'll have questions. On an informal note, can I know why Narayan Rane and Nirmala Sitharaman are proposing 2 independent resolutions?
Again, the point is we consider for the matter of fact as a government, as a collective government, although we have collective responsibility, our approach must be to an extent decentralized. So in order to address issues in a more precise way, we can decentralize things and sort works amongst ourselves, which will make sure that the efficiency of the government is done in the right way. That is why we are coming out with certain resolutions.
But decentralization should be in other matters of public importance. Right here, you should have one collective way of approaching the resolution. Ideally speaking.
Understood, sir. We will take your views and opinions when the next time we again pass a resolution.
Okay. Right, members, can we move on? If I could have a confirmation from the leader of the house, Piyush Goyal. Sir, you weren't audible, Piyush Goyal.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. Members wishing to ask Nirmala Sitharaman questions, raise your hands. We'll wait for 10 seconds. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're very well audible.
Yes, Karan.
5 more seconds. Seeing that the house has no concerns, we'll move on to voting.
Sir,
Yes,
we
Kapil
just
Sibal.
request you for 1 minute to just going through the act. So
Okay, okay. Take your time.
yes, thank you.
Kapil Sibal, are we ready? We are on a very short time constraint, and since the government wants to present two different opinions, that's why.
Sure, sir. I'll just put up my question.
Right.
So this resolution is put forth. So I have a very, very general and a basic question regarding this. So I just want to ask you, so like Ma'am Nirmala Sitharaman, ma'am, that since you are providing for such a good resolution, do you have any plan which will actually regulate the accounts which are being declared as non-performing assets? Because in the very recent years, a lot of accounts who took loans from the public sector banks for the PPP model, they were declared as NPA. So what kind of regulation are you putting forth, or what kind of what are you planning to mitigate all of the losses which are being the losses which are incurred by the public sector banks due to the loans being declared as NPA?
It was nice that you rephrased your question in a proper way. See, for NPAs, our government, when we came into power, even in the format budget and the current budget, we have introduced something called as asset reconstruction companies. these specific companies will get on to the matter of finding out the assets which are lying as non-performing and will deal with them. Moreover, we also brought the insolvency and bankruptcy code in order to address this particular matter of NPS. Now, coming to the very specific question of banks which are specifically going to be privatized because they have NPS. Understand for the matter of fact that the NPS that has been cumulatively owned can be resorted to certain extent by the financial instruments that we have. But the debt that has recurred because of the delayed assets that have been continuing to exist, that is something that the state cannot own because we do not have the capital. We have to borrow again and again and again to fund it. In order to resolve this, they will be privatized. So how the government goes with privatizing banks, the Niti Aayog, which is the former think tank of the government, will come out with recommending any of the particular banks which they specifically recommend to go on with privatizing. Now, looking at the financial capacity and stability of the bank, whether or not are we going for a merger or are we completely going to sell that particular bank is decided. And looking at the composition and the capacity of that particular bank, the decision on that is taken into consideration. Moreover, we very recently had a parliamentary standing committee report on how
to please conclude,
which the government is implementing, and I believe that is the way we are sorting.
Right.
May I follow up on this?
No, sir. I think there were two very satisfactory answers regarding the ARCL and the insolvency code given.
No problem. I'll take up.
KC Venugopal.
So in the fourth paragraph, you talk about the initiative of national monetization pipeline, not only provide that paragraph. So, but I would like you to provide some clarity because there is a larger question of where within the budget will such proceed from monetization be accounted for and how these proceeds will be spent. Would they be, for instance, be part of the government's capital receipt? Because the NMP document does not speak about these proceeds being used for further financial infrastructure, but it does no specific guideline or rule, however, on how these proceeds could be used. Could they be used for paying salaries, giving pensions or subsidies? Like, could you provide some clarity on this?
First of all, phrasing different economic terms together doesn't sound an argument to be so logical. I'll break your arguments into three parts. One, basically the NMP document that was announced in the budget needs to be carried out to an executive decision. That is why the asset monetization guideline number 1 and the national investment pipeline guidelines were released by the Niti Aayog in consultation with the government, which we are proposing. And that is the sole book guide that we are using in terms of monetizing these assets. Second of all, there needs to be no question of pensions or per se all other matters that needs to be taken here because we are not completely privatizing or disinvesting anything here. Asset monetization only happen for core assets. For non-core assets, we have something under the Department of Investment and Public Asset Management, where all these employees who are involved in the public sector come into play, where the question of pension comes. That need not be specifically mentioned under asset monetization because that deals with core assets. Third of all, we have infrastructure funds that are being set and real estate invites that are being set up, which will be registered under the SEBI, and they will take care of the matters of regulating these. So as far as we are concerned, there is a clear guideline that we have on our face with respect to approaching this. This is a project that is supposed to go for literally 4 or 5 years, and that is how we are approaching this.
Noted, man. Thank you so much. Mallikarjun Kharge, very brief, very quickly.
Okay, sir. I'll be very quick. So when you talk about the special education zones to be provided in the states, I wanted to ask if those zones will be actually concentrated to a certain region, or will they go into the rural area? If they go into the rural area, how will you make sure that the private player earns out of it and make sure that they continue to invest in that sector?
Number one, the special economic zones would be the exact balance between the areas which are way too urbanized and the areas which are not that urbanized or rural background. There needs to be a balance level or a level playing field for the education to concentrate at a point, right? And that is why we are proposing. Take for example, what happens in the state of Tamil Nadu, where in the western part of Tamil Nadu, you have all these, education sector concentrated at the place near Coimbatore. Now, that is how you specifically try to resolve, because every rural area that is lying aside they will have the opportunity to send the students from the rural background to these specific zones, and these zones will be providing education over there. Very similar to what happens in Kota, or very similar to what happens in education institutions in Bangalore. So the primary objective here is that these special education zones would be developed by the state government. Although education is in the concurrent list, state governments take the prerogative of framing down policies for encouraging educational institutions in India. So they will come out with this. We will give an incentive and make sure that the private institutions have given enough incentives there for building their infrastructure and getting students into play. Thank you.
Noted. Right. Now we'll move on to voting. Again, the same procedure. Mallikarjun Kharge, can you lower your hand? Right. We have 4 members of the panel and the vice president in the committee. So I think we have 29 members in committee right now. No, we have 28 members in committee. Simple majority stands at 15. Members in favor of the resolution proposed by Nirmala Sitharaman, raise your hands. Right, we have 15 votes. Everybody lower your hands. Members against, raise your hands. Right, we have 9 votes. This resolution is clearly adopted by the House. Therefore, it passes. We won't be voting upon or discussing Narayan Rane's resolution right now. Members, that brings us to the end of the session.
So I had a point of parliamentary inquiry. I had a question.
Go ahead.
So if there is another resolution, could it be just recorded, like submitted as an opinion of the House, of the opposition?
Sir, I think
no voting, no discussions, just record.
Sir, you have proposed a resolution, right?
Yeah, the opposition have.
Right. I think there was one from Kapil Sibal and the other one was from
Yeah.
you only, right?
Yeah.
So that is in record.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't voted on that, but that is in record.
Sir, but for me, I wanted to ask if I could, just put forth this, like, for the record from my side.
Sure. We'll do that.
Should I be posting it on the WhatsApp group, or since it's there, it's just going to be there?
It'll be there, that's it.
Okay, it'll be taken, right? Thank you.
Right. Yes, Sharad Pawar.
Sorry, I raised my hand by mistake. Sorry.
No issues. Adela, can you stop the recording?
One last minute doubt. Will
Yes,
that be
Narayan.
taken into consideration for the marking scheme, though?
That is on the record.
Okay.
Regarding the marking scheme, I really can't give you any details regarding that. But as
All right.
Mihir sir mentioned, anything that you do in committee is marked upon.
Okay. Take it. That provides for my answer. Thank you.
Right. Right,
Adela,
members, we
could you
have
please stop the recording.
Adela Lakshmi. Tanaya, when is the closing ceremony?
I'll just confirm it with them. Just
Yeah. Lakshmi, can you stop the recording?
Okay, I'll do.
Yeah.